G'day everyone and welcome to my art channel Brushes with Beck. In today's video I am using only Derwent drawing pencils to complete this little drawing of a red-necked wallaby. Now if you watched my recent video where I used watercolour pencils on a Spinifex hopping mouse, I am using the same paper today, and that is Clairefontaine paint on paper in the natural colour. I'm using the back of the paper, which has the slightly smoother texture, but this time instead of using watercolour pencils, I am only using these Derwent drawing pencils. Derwent drawing pencils are a lovely wax-based pencils. They are really creamy and they come in 24 like really earthy sort of tones. So I thought they were a good option for a limited colour palette for creating this sort of rough drawing of a red-necked wallaby. As you can see, I'm just working in some generalized layout of colors to work out how bright I want some areas to be, work out where I want red areas and green tones and all that sort of thing. I've gone in with the Solway blue in the really bright areas, and I'm just working through and mapping out those different colors so that it can help me build up depth of colour over time without losing those defined areas of the wallaby. So overall this was a fairly straightforward piece, a little bit challenging because there's only 2 greys in the set of Derwent drawing pencils, which makes it quite challenging to get sort of darker and mid-range greys. The cool grey is quite bright and the warm grey is a little bit darker, but there's no sort of darker greys, it's just straight from those 2 greys to the black tone. So getting those grey tones can be quite challenging, which is why I've laid in a lot of colour and overlapped sort of complementing colours to then neutralise each other to sort of become more grey in tone. So it's quite challenging working on a grey animal with those limited selection of greys, unlike the sets such as the Faber-Castell Polychromos, where you've got, I think it's 6 warm greys, 6 cool greys, and then the Payne's grey as well as your black, and dark sepia, which is a brown but has a bit of a grey tone. So there's a lot of options there, whereas this is much more limited. But I really love the way the Derwent drawing pencils go down, and I feel like I can be more rough with them and more loose with them and get a more sort of painted look without having to be too thorough and detailed, which is why I really enjoy using them. And I've never used them exclusively on this paper, so I thought it would be a good opportunity while I still had the other half of the paper I used for the hopping mouse drawing. I thought it would be a good opportunity to use this and play around with them with my Derwent drawing pencils. Now you can see I've gotten a bit more colour laid in, and I'm going in quite lightly with all my layers. I'm building up very, very slowly. I was a bit wary of going too hard too fast, and I wasn't sure exactly how to blend out those colours without going too dark. So in the end, I ended up sort of laying down all my base colours, building up the tones that I wanted, and then going over the top of those with either the warm grey or the cool grey to blend them out a bit and to sort of tone down those colours so they weren't quite so bright. So doing the eye as well, that's nice and vivid black, which is nice and easy, and that just helps sort of ground the animal a little bit. I've got that darkest dark in, and I can adjust everything else around it based on that eye. Despite how rich the colours are on these Derwent drawing pencils, it did take me quite a while to build up those colours that I wanted, because I didn't just go straight in with a lot of pressure. To be able to layer up these pencils properly, you do need to apply very light layers and slowly blend them together and work them up to blend that colour out. If you go in too hard too fast, you just end up with too much wax bloom and the pencils don't blend as well. So it's important to remember to layer them up very slowly. This is being the first time I have used this paper for these pencils exclusively. I found it a bit more challenging as well. I'm very used to working on Canson Matons alone with these pencils, and the texture on that I find to be very easy to work on. This was a little bit more challenging because it's slightly smoother, still with a texture, so there's a bit of a balancing act there and a bit of a slight learning curve as to how exactly to blend out my colours the way that I wanted. And it didn't always go to plan. Some of the colour blends ended up a little bit clumpy, like under the base of the tail, and then working out how to add in my black fur strands without them becoming too stark, and being able to blend them out a little bit was also quite challenging. But overall it came together pretty well. So if you are enjoying this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment down below and subscribe to my channel and hit that super thanks button if you can. Otherwise, let's continue on. And I'm just working on the tail of the wallaby. This was the brightest section of the animal, and I went and added some white in these areas, and once I added a little bit of the white pencil, it sort of made the whole thing come together a little bit better, because even though there wasn't any bright whites on my reference photo, adding in some bright whites on my drawing really helped make things pop a little bit, made my brights brighter, made my darks look a little bit darker, and it helped really add decent value into the drawing, make it pop a little bit more. So I didn't need to add a lot of white, and as I said, there's not any stark bright white in my reference photo, so I didn't want to overdo it, but just adding a little bit here and there, little hints of that white fur, really added quite a bit and helped make things stand out a bit better. So I did get a little bit lost on these front paws. I had trouble blending it out a bit. I think on one of the front paws I had a few too many layers of pencil, and it just wasn't going quite my way, couldn't get it looking quite how I liked, so I decided it was better to probably leave it be rather than keep working it too much. There is a balance between how much do I want to try and keep working something to try and make it work versus is it actually going to work, or am I just going to muck it up even further? So based on that, I decided to leave the front paws, and the paws really are more suggestions of the feet. There's not a lot of detail that I can tell in terms of the toes and stuff in the photos. There is grass covering the bottom of the feet, and we're just going to add in, suggestion of grass at the bottom at the end to help sort of ground the wallaby and help him sort of look like he's in place rather than he's missing feet and the bottom of his tail. So nothing fancy here, just some random pencil strokes to look like random blades of grass and just this hint of green, and it really doesn't need to be anything special, but it comes up looking a treat. And I do hope you've enjoyed this video. Please, as I said, leave a comment down below, give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel for a new art video every single week, and I'll see you again next time for another one. Stay creative.